Hey, this is Corey Barnes.
And this is Lisa Caperton, and you're listening to Her Turn to Talk. How's your conscious cleanse going?
Excellent. I made delicious curried carrot soup this
Is it
morning,
good?
and I made some Beeler's broth yesterday. Yeah, that is one thing that I've made over
I'm
and over
going to
and
need
over
like
again.
a list of your favorites,
Yeah.
I think.
What else? I'm making stuff all the time, and I'm doing green smoothies every day, or at least a smoothie every day.
Yeah.
And it's going great. I can tell immediately when I eat refined sugar or gluten or dairy, and I've been steering away for those things. And I think I've lost a few pounds, and my bloat has gone away, and my inflammation has gone away, and my skin is looking amazing.
That's nice. Nice. Well, you do look very beautiful and glowy.
Thank you.
I haven't started it yet. I've been reading the book. I did buy some fresh vegetables and stuff today, and I had the green goddess smoothie just to try. And I was making it, and Danny was like looking at me a little weird, and then he had to go for work on a call, and he was like, "I want to see your face when you drink this real quick." And I was pleasantly surprised when I tasted it. I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Mhm.
And then he tasted it. He was like, "Oh, yeah, it is."
Yeah.
So I'm just I'm not even starting the prepping part yet. I'm still reading, but I liked the idea of just going ahead and starting to incorporate more vegetables and fruit and starting to be a little more mindful. I finished the last bit of my coffee creamer today, so I purposely didn't buy any more. And so
Yep.
I'm not sure that I'm ready to do the complete caffeine thing yet. So I'm going to have tea in the morning. The truth is 100% that I am waiting because Claire, my friend Claire's in England back home visiting. She comes home tomorrow, and they're bringing me back crumpets. And so I purposely want to wait so I can eat some crumpets, and then I'll do stuff for real.
Yeah. Yep.
So, it'll be a few more days, I guess, before I really dive into it. But anyways, it was fun. It was fun to go to the grocery store and get a whole array of different fruits and vegetables and things that I don't normally get. And
It doesn't have to be organic. You can get a lot
right.
cheaper
and
not organic.
I did the kind of a mix because there were some things that I was like, oh, that is significantly more expensive in the organic. I did go to Sprouts though, so some things were a little cheaper. But anyways, so we'll see. We'll see
it's
what
fun.
happens.
And then you get like in the swing of things. It's a process.
Yeah.
It's not just one day, oh, I'm doing the cleanse. It's like this complete process.
Right. And I'm just super interested. The inflammation is my main
my Achilles
purpose
is fine.
is-
Just throwing it out there.
Well, and I know I have these, I have these aches and pains and all of these different things, and I can feel in my body that I want to know. I'm sure food has something to do with it, and so I really just want to know how my body's reacting to certain foods. And so that's it's like this little science experiment that
Exactly.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep
think of it
keep
as-
each other
as an
posted, and
experiment.
I may be sending you texts, here and there of needing some pep talk through it.
Yeah.
But that's
But
right.
the idea of 80-20,
Right.
is
Right.
so, I haven't found, like I noticed right away. I'm like, oh God. There'll be, after Travis and I went for Italian food, and I had chicken Parmesan with a ton of butter, spaghetti sauce, and ziti or whatever. And I was just, the fatigue the next, 12 hours was horrible. So I'm like, was it worth it? I don't know.
Right.
Right.
And that's what I'm interested
But
to
some
see.
things are
Yeah.
worth it. Like I had some Indian food that was pretty, that was really good too.
Yeah. And I know I have a sugar problem. I'm hiding candy bars in the back of the fridge so the kids can't see it, and like that whole thing. And then I notice my kids are super like we don't have any candy. We're out of candy, like let's ring the alarm bells. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be this household that thinks that we need sugar every single day. And so I
The
kinda
joy
wanna
balls are really
change
good.
that.
The chocolate truffles are really good. And Sylvie, if you're listening, the blueberry pie is so good.
I've seen the recipe for those. I haven't tried them. We'll see.
Delish.
We'll
And
keep it
so easy. It's like 5 ingredients:
Yeah, I've seen it.
honey,
Looks easy.
blueberries, walnuts, dates, cinnamon. That's it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at some of the things. The smoothie I had today, and it had cilantro, and I was very skeptical. but
good.
I do like cilantro. And then I tried it and I thought this is really good.
They're
So
refreshing.
yeah, yeah,
The parsley too. You end up buying a lot
yeah,
of parsley and a lot of cilantro, and it's good.
yeah,
It's really good, but you get this taste. You get this idea of like, okay, this is what eating clean and healthy tastes like,
right,
and then
right.
there's something starts to happen. There was a perspective shift for me. Like the Beeler's broth, I was totally not into, but I was still weaning myself off sugar, and now that I'm not eating the refined sugar, that Beeler's broth is delicious to me. I'll drink it cold even.
Okay. Well, we'll just keep going. We'll see what happens. Do you want to know who my badass woman is? You know her.
Who is your
I
badass
know
woman today?
that you know her. Everybody, I believe, probably knows her. Misty Copeland.
I don't know who that is.
What? Really? Famous ballerina?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. Well, here we go then. So, Misty Copeland was born in Kansas City, Missouri. She is the fourth child of 6 children, 2 of which are half siblings. Her family moved quite a bit growing up. She had what could be described as a tumultuous upbringing. With her father out of the picture, her mother married several times, and her 4th husband was emotionally and physically abusive to the family. Eventually, they ended up in San Pedro, California. She joined the drill team in middle school. Her coach was the one who noticed her talent and recommended that she take ballet classes. She started taking them at a local boys and girls club. After that, her dance coach, I guess, recognized her talents and took her to San Pedro Ballet School, where she was also taught. Copeland was only 13 at this time, which is actually quite a late start for a professional dancer, career path. And something that I don't think she really necessarily thought about before this. She had just kind of danced at home, and thought and made up things. But because of her home life and travel troubles, she was going to have to give up dance. But her dance teacher actually convinced her mother to let her host her and have custody of her so she could live with her dance teacher, and that way she could still be able to get back and forth to dance class because her mom was raising several other children, working several jobs, and just needed some extra help. So then she went on to continue dance. She actually won first prize at the LA Music Center Spotlight Awards for ballet, at which point she received a full scholarship at an intensive summer program at the San Francisco Ballet. That same year, her teacher and her mother actually started having some troubles, and there actually was a huge custody battle over her because her mother wanted her back, and it was highly publicized. They were even seen appearing on like network TV, those drama TV shows. They would be arguing, and poor Misty would kind of just be sitting there. But eventually, she did end up going back to live with her mother. She lived in a motel with her siblings and her mother, and she was arguing with her mother quite a bit. She started San Pedro High School, but continued to study ballet. In the year 2000, she won another scholarship for a summer dance program and was named the American Ballet Theater National Dance Coca-Cola Scholar, after which she was invited to join the ABT Studio Company program for young dancers in training. She soon became a member of the ABT's Corps de Ballet in 2001. She was the only African-American woman in a group of 80 dancers. Despite the challenges of her differences in her color and her body type, she proved to be exceptional. In 2007, she became the first African-American female soloist in the company in over 2 decades. On June 30th in 2015, Copeland became the first American woman to be promoted to principal ballerina in the ABTs in the 75-year history. So first ever principal ballerina to be African American. Beyond her stellar dancing career, she also unveiled a line of dancewear. She's also released several books, one of those being a personal memoir. She's also had many different endorsement deals and modeling opportunities, appeared on different TV programs and in music videos. She's won many different awards. She was also named one of Barbara Walters' 10 most fascinating people in 2015. So there's really, no denying her talent, that's for sure. And then with her hard work, her determination and perseverance, and just gift that she has for dance, that there's just no way around it, that saying that she's a badass woman. So that's my badass woman, Misty Copeland.
Now I know who she is.
Now you know who she is. If you should Google her, and I mean, she's stunning, just stunningly beautiful and stunningly amazing dancer. I'm not even necessarily one to watch the ballet, but she's amazing. And so with that, we'll go on to talk about our next badass woman. On today's episode, we're going to meet Alex, and she is a wonderful woman who's living with cystic fibrosis. We're going to learn about this sometimes invisible disease, and we're going to hear her incredible life journey. I just want to say, for Misty Copeland, I found my information from Wikipedia and goodoldbiography.com. On this episode with Alex, she gave us some statistics that she actually got a little bit wrong, and she emailed me and asked that we make sure to correct those numbers. So before we get into things, I just want to say that the number of people with CF, cystic fibrosis, in the U.S. and worldwide was incorrect in her first statement. There are actually a reported number of 70,000 people worldwide living with CF, and 30,000 of those are people in the U.S. Hi, Alex.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. For our listeners, can you just tell us, do you just want us to call you Alex, or you want to let listeners know your full name?
Full name's fine, but you can call me Alex going forward.
Well, tell us your full name then.
Alex Gantt.
All right, Alex. Well, we're super excited. You were recommended to me, or I actually asked about you to my sister-in-law. You've been good friends with her since, oh my gosh, high school? Or
18 years?
That's a long time. That's a long time. And I just knew from her in things that she is kind of, when talking about you, or I've known, is that you have cystic fibrosis. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so I thought, oh, that's very interesting. I don't actually know, like, I've never talked with anybody about that. I don't know much about that. And I think all I know is what I see on the movies or from Grey's Anatomy. Like, that's the extent of my knowledge. And I thought, oh, I'd really like to know more about that. And I'm sure other people would, because like I said, there's been several movies.
Yeah, the big one was the 5 Feet Apart.
Yeah.
That came out last year.
Yeah. And so I'm like, there's got to be just more to that part. Like, that's all they talk about, is that two people who have the cystic fibrosis can't be close to each other. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. But there's got to be so much more that we are missing. Like,
there is. Yeah.
And I thought, well, what a wonderful way to like bring awareness to something, and teach people about it. And then also just to get your experience on that, and get your experience as a woman, and what it's been like for you growing up and just living your life. And I know, hearing from my sister-in-law about you and what I've known about you and when I have seen you, you always seem very upbeat and very positive and smiling. And it's just like somebody that I'm like, oh, I want to talk to her. And so that's what we're doing today. Can you tell us, I guess, what cystic fibrosis is, what that means?
So cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. It affects pretty much all the organs, but primarily the lungs, and for some people, the pancreas. So you're born with it. And basically, in layman's terms, it's thick, sticky mucus that coats all of your organs. So for your lungs, it makes it very hard to breathe through the mucus, and the mucus breeds infection. And so you have repeated lung infections over and over again in your lungs, and you can't get that mucus up to get rid of the infection. And then for some people, which is me, they also have the mucus on their pancreas. So their pancreas can't produce enzymes. And so you can't eat food, basically, and digest it. So I have to take pancreatic enzymes that I've taken my entire life just to eat food. So I want a glass of milk, I have to take an enzyme with it.
So you have to take, it's not something you just take once a day. You have to take it
With
at each.
every meal and every snack.
So you have to carry that around with
I
you.
do. And I have to like actually stop and think like if I want a snack, well, how much fat is this? How many calories is this to kind of guess how many I have to take?
Is it a pill?
It is pills. But so I take 3 with meals and 1 to 2 with snacks. And it's supposed to be based on the amount of food, the fat, the calories. But it's trial and error.
Is it something that's prescribed?
Yes.
And does insurance cover it?
Yes.
I'm always interested.
It's a
to
very
know-
high copay, but yes.
Right. Well, I'm so interested in knowing about healthcare costs, especially with people with any kind of chronic thing that they're having to pay for. I mean, I know with EpiPens, like my son has to have that. And when we found out, they're like, oh, it's $600. I'm like, what are you talking about? And thank goodness we found a company that gave them to us for free.
Oh, that's nice.
But I just can't imagine. Like, yeah, I'm always interested to know, like, how do you get the drugs that you need in our country? Because they make it very difficult, I feel like.
They do. And a lot of the CF drugs are, there's just one type of them. Like there's not a generic alternative available. So it's that one type. So they can charge whatever they want.
Yeah.
And you just have no choice.
It's sad. That's really sad for all of us. I have a question real quick before we move on about, you said that it's a genetic disorder. So do one of your parents have it or are they carriers?
So both of my parents were carriers. So have a baby
just happen. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they both had to have been carriers. And, I have 2 older brothers and they don't have it either. And as far as I know, I think they're both carriers, but I don't think they've ever actually got tested. But my brother has 2 kids and they do not have CF because his wife was not a carrier.
Oh, wow.
But I guess potentially his kids could be carriers. It's kind of, I get kind of confused on the percentages of carriers that pass down to carriers.
Right. But it could be, it can go male or female.
Yes.
Okay. It can be carriers. Oh, that's interesting.
And so it's become a way of living for you.
I've never known anything but it. I was diagnosed at 9 months old.
Yeah. So it's always, you've always been mindful of it.
Yes.
And it's just part of who you are.
It is.
A unique part of you, right? And then you moved here.
Yes.
Because you could breathe better. Is that right?
So I have a friend that lives in Denver and we flew out to see her and suddenly I could breathe here. And we went on a 3-hour walk and I hadn't been able to walk longer than like a block.
Wow.
Back in Austin.
That's a big difference.
That's like the opposite for people visiting.
Exactly.
Is it the dryness?
Yes.
Okay.
So come to find out, don't know why no one told me this since I lived in Austin my entire life. Humidity breeds infection, which makes sense.
Right.
Never thought about it. And so I was just repeated lung infections over and over and over again, and the humidity was making it worse.
Wow.
So coming here to
nobody
dry
ever
air.
told you that either.
Yeah.
Because it was like, even back in the day, it was very common for people with TB and other things like that to be told to move to the mountains.
Right.
Or to move here, to Colorado.
And when this experience happened, were you like, what is going on? Were you like, what's happening? Am I cured?
I was, and it was actually kind of funny. My dad's wife, they live in Arizona, and she was talking about me one day, and a coworker overheard her and said, my brother has CF. And said he just turned, I want to say 45 at the time is what she told me. And she got me in contact with him. And he told me when he was 30 years old, they took him off the lung transplant list because they told him, life expectancy wise, you're already there. We're not going to basically waste lungs on you. So, go off and wait to die. And so he decided to move to Arizona, and it completely took away his lung infections. And so he told me, if you can do it, go to Colorado, Arizona, or Utah, and you need to move now.
Oh, wow.
And my husband, who was desperate to have any more time with me, was like, let's go.
Yeah.
And so we just moved here.
Wow.
What a blessing.
How long have you been here now?
3 years. It was 3 years in October.
Ah, cool. And your husband, he's like
Amazing.
your rock, your best
Yes.
friend.
Yeah, he is amazing.
Does he have CF?
He does not.
So what is that like living with someone that does not have it?
So he actually ended up going into the medical field because of me. And so he is a firefighter paramedic now.
Wow.
Awesome.
So
And is that true that that two people with CF can't be in a relationship?
Yes.
And that's just because of co-infection. Like you can infect each other?
correct.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we all have different mutations in our lungs, basically, and we can pass it back and forth to each other.
Oh.
Okay.
So there are people who are siblings that both have it, and it's not as big of a deal then because you grow up in the same house and you just pass it back and forth.
So it's like it's almost like a weird like you've built immunity.
Right.
to
But like
that
if one of them
specific-
moves away to college for a long time and comes back, then suddenly they're going to make each other sick.
Wow. Interesting. What is the average life expectancy? You said this other person had met that.
Yeah. So when I was born, it was 12.
Wow.
And then by the time I got to 12, I want to say it was 17 or 18. And then by the time I got there, it was 30. And then right around when I turned 30, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 37 and a half now is what it is today.
Wow. Well, I mean, it sounds like they're making progress.
They are.
in this. And what have you experienced in that progress? Like, what has changed for you?
You know, it's kind of funny because I feel like my entire life I've just been chasing that life expectancy, like just barely getting to it, and then it jumps ahead of me. And so, you know, it was always kind of hanging over my head when I was growing up. And so there's so many times that I think I'm almost there, and then it jumps ahead. And so it's just this weird feeling of not knowing ever how much longer I actually have with these lungs because it keeps jumping forward. But there is actually this brand new drug that just got approved in October. It's called Trikafta, and it's being touted as the miracle drug. And I've been on it for 3 weeks as of today. And had you talked to me 3 weeks ago, some of my answers would be completely different. It's changed a lot in only 3 weeks. It's kind of crazy.
Cool. And how is that administered?
So it's a pill.
It's a pill.
It's 2 pills in the morning and 1 pill at night, 12 hours apart.
And you do have a port.
I do.
And what is a port used for?
So IVs.
IVs.
So I used to get PICC lines, which is when they thread, the needle up through the vein. And that was how I got all of my IV antibiotics. And my veins just eventually gave out. So the next option was the port, put surgically in. And now when I need IV treatments, my husband just accesses my port and I get them through that way at home. So I don't have to go to the hospital anymore.
And for listeners who don't know what that port is, I mean, yeah, we can Google it, but could you kind of describe, you get it surgically?
Yes. So it's usually
placed.
on your right side. It's right under your collarbone. And it's a little round, I guess it's like a metal, but it has this meshy like thing that you can push on, and you can feel it when you push on it. My niece and nephew love pushing on it. They call it my button, the button in my chest. But the needle goes straight into the middle of the port, and then you put a dressing over it, and it hangs down from there, and then you put the IVs in the tube that's hanging out of your chest. And
Painless.
No problem at all. And once a month, even when it's not being used for IVs, you have to access it and flush it with saline and heparin.
Sure.
So my husband does all that for me.
Oh, that's good.
Wow. And you guys have been married 18 years, or since you were 18?
14 years.
Since you were 18,
20.
though. Oh, 20.
Yep.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow. So he knew what he was signing up for.
I told him on our very first date.
Yeah.
I said, I have cystic fibrosis. This is what it means. And if you're not, bail now.
Yeah.
Like if you're not in this for the long haul and you it's tough. I mean, I wouldn't have blamed him for running away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was lucky to have a partner? Sorry,
No, go ahead.
Lucky to have a partner to be by your side and to help you with this thing. I mean, and I'm sure that has branched in all things, all kinds of different aspects of your relationship.
Yes.
So that's really nice. Cool.
I have a question. You said growing up, you're kind of chasing that number, that life expectancy number. What was that like for you mentally? Like, did that make you, and maybe you had an array of emotions, but did it make you be like, I'm going to live my life to the fullest, or did it make you sad and introverted? Like,
it was kind of both.
Yeah.
Depending on the time period. There was a lot of thought of, why go to college? What's the point? I never thought I would get married because I didn't see the point and I didn't want to put someone through that. And then there were times that I thought, I just want to live every day like it's my last and, try to be as positive as possible. And then, then I would have the days where I'd go back and forth and, again, like, what's the point kind of thing. I didn't go to college because I didn't see the point in wasting the time or the money for it. And, of course, now I'm like, okay, now I'm 34. Had I known I had made it this long, I would have gone. And so, but you just never know.
Right.
Yeah.
Were your parents, how did they treat you? Were they, I don't know, did they like make it an issue, or was it like, we're just not going to talk about this, we're going to live each day? Like,
they treated me normal. They never really let me see that it affected them. My dad used to read to me while I did my breathing treatments. We used to read Encyclopedia Brown together. And and now it's like kind of a fun thing. Every now and then he lives in Arizona and, I'm here, and we both would check out the same book from the library.
Oh, I love that.
And then like text each other afterwards. And
and so this is where your love of reading.
Yes.
Because you say you like to read a lot.
Love to read. And it was started from my dad. I had to sit and do these treatments as a kid. And it was torture to sit that long and sit still for that long.
Especially for a kid. Yeah, I can't imagine.
And the breathing machines were bigger and kind of crappier. So they took a lot longer back then too.
I'm imagining like an iron lung. Do you know, like, that's not what you were doing, but like, that's the kind of treatment that, I mean, it was.
Yeah, you hold literally that thing against your mouth and don't move for an hour.
Wow.
Have you ever needed, you haven't had a lung transplant, have you?
No.
Have you ever thought, has that ever been like something that's on the radar?
I'm not eligible to be on the list yet.
Okay.
You have to really be sick to be on the list.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people die while they're on the list waiting. And
it's kind of that catch-22, or you have to be super sick. Yeah.
And then, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because I feel like if we gave lungs to people when they're a little bit healthier, they could probably survive the surgery a lot better, and the recovery time would be less. But they don't seem to think that way. But I go back and forth on if I would transplant or not. My husband and I have had some arguments about it, and then decided, since I'm not eligible, like
there's no need
to fight about that now.
Yeah.
We can fight about that later. I go back and forth on it. The older I get, the more I'd be willing to, I think. But when I was younger, it almost felt like playing God to me. And I just had a hard time wrapping my head around, because I thought, if it's my time, it's my time.
Yeah.
But I'm changing my mind as
you get older.
It's listening to you, I'm like, I've had those same thoughts too. I'm like, do we call CF a disease?
Yes.
Like, I've thought that too. Like, why go to college? It's not, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking, she's perfectly normal. She's just got this thing, and her and her family and your amazing partner have just adapted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you're not like anybody else, and you're living your life. Yeah, we have all these same thoughts. It's nothing unusual, right? To think those kind of things. And, or even as someone who's healthy, to think, oh man, I might not be around for, more than 5 years, or something like that. Right. And so that was surprising to me, right? To hear, with someone who does have a disease, that it's, and yeah, sometimes too, I think I'm going to live today like it's my last, right?
Right.
And to not say, I've been living every day like it's my last for, however long, right? And so I think that's pretty neat. And if I saw you, I would have never said, oh, she's got CF or any disease. You're healthy, you're beautiful. I mean, you're like, your composure, you're talking to me just like any normal, woman that I'd meet. And so it also makes me think of, wow, how many people have I encountered that might have something going behind the scenes that I have no idea about?
Right.
I have a friend who has, she's a hemophiliac.
Okay.
Another disease. She is heavily immersed in her hemophiliac community, which brings me to, you also have a CF community.
Yes.
Big time support, right?
Yes.
So what does that look like? Do you guys events? Do you get together? You've made lots of friends?
Yeah. So the biggest thing with CF is it's such an isolating disease, because we can't be in the same room. So the rule. So the rule. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Damn.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's a 6 feet apart rule.
Wow.
And even then, they really don't want you around. But if you have to be 6 feet apart. You both have to be wearing masks.
Yeah.
when I'm in the hospital, I can't go hang out with other CFers, even if they're my friend, and we can't do
So
anything
how do you guys
together.
meet up? Do you have do
Virtually.
you stay apart? I was just going to say, is it Skype
Thank
or
God
do you
for the
do
internet.
something?
Yes. And so I didn't have a CF community at all for the longest time. And it's only actually been in the last couple years that I've gotten involved in it. And it's all virtual. We have virtual events a couple times a year. I started attending those. And from there, I started actually being in the work group for some of them and planning them, and made friends that way. And as of right now, I have a book club that meets once a month.
Yes.
I have a writing group that meets every other Friday. And I have just this standing weekly Wednesday meeting with a couple people where we talk about having a role beyond patient.
Wow.
I love that. And this finding this community is what has given you a voice, because you used to not like to talk about CF.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I never talked about it. So many of my friends and family, obviously they knew I had it, and they knew when I was sick, you see me in the hospital with IVs, it's kind of hard to pretend like I'm not sick, but I didn't talk about it. And unfortunately, I kind of did a disservice to myself because people in my life didn't understand. And
Right.
so when suddenly I was sick enough to have to stop working, I think a lot of people were like, where did that come from? You're
Right.
totally fine. Because it is such an invisible disease. You can't look at me and tell. And I don't let people see me when I'm super sick.
Uh-huh.
And so it's kind of hard, I think, for some people to know me for years and not really have CF be a part of something I talked about, and then suddenly finding out that they really don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think sometimes, I know I have done this before with different things, and how we don't talk about what's going on, and then we rob ourselves of help, right? And then we
Yes.
isolate ourselves. But we also are robbing the other person of being able to help us and the joy that might bring to them. Right?
Yeah.
And it's funny how that happens in all walks, for everybody in certain ways it can happen. And how we realize that when we do talk about it, of how much mutually we can both get, from being open with each other.
Random weird question.
Yes.
Have you ever smoked anything?
No. I
Smart.
can't be around the smell of it at all.
Yeah.
I instantly start coughing. It's
Perfume, does that do?
not so much super strong odors in general, but yeah, the smoke, it's terrible.
Do you have many food allergies?
I don't have any, actually.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. That's a blessing, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'll take one. Take one thing, please. Talking about the books.
Mhm.
I love that you told us that when you're sick, you read Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High.
Yes. Those are my comfort books.
Thank you for reminding me. I forgot all about those books. I used to love reading those books.
It took me years and years and years of shopping at Half Price Books, which is a used bookstore in Texas. I miss it so much. I have every single Babysitter's Club now, including all the mysteries and the super specials. But it took me years.
That's awesome. The whole
find them.
collection.
Yes.
Isn't it great to
it's like
have
200 books.
Yes. To actually have the physical books. I love
How many
this.
times have you read them?
I couldn't even probably count.
I love it.
That's awesome.
I will admit that I have never read either any
What?
of
What?
none of them. I know.
You don't know Jessica and Elizabeth
I
Wakefield?
don't. I
reals.
don't know anything.
Oh my God. I like immediately it's taking me back to my library, like looking to like find them. And oh my gosh. And I'd be so upset when like the new one would already be taken out.
Yes.
And they were so good. All the stories. I should pick that back up again. And we have a guest coming on who is like the real deal Babysitter Club. Her name is Jimmy. So you got to keep an eye out for Jimmy because she owns Boulder Babysitter. Just throwing it out here. I keep thinking about Babysitter's Club. And when I saw this, I thought, oh my gosh, small world. So yeah, we'll learn about Jimmy too here in a week or two. But yeah. So anyway, I loved that. So that was really cool. You talking about just comfort in general when you're not feeling good. What does that self-care look like? What does that self-love look like?
It's a lot of really warm, fuzzy PJ pants and books. And a lot of times just being in a blanket with my 2 dogs and watching comfort TV as well, like all the Harry Potter movies. Those are what I'll throw in when I'm really not feeling good.
Yeah.
Because if I fall asleep during them too, I mean, I've seen them 900 times. And
Yeah.
And that can last for more than a couple days, right?
Yeah. So when I'm on the IVs, the round of IVs that we are on are called tune-ups. And it's typically 3 weeks for me. And then about a week to recover afterwards. So about a month of my life.
Wow.
And it's usually like 3 a year. So,
Damn. And are you just confined to the house?
yeah.
Ooh.
Do you do anything for like mental health wise? Like we're strong supporters of get any kind of mental health help that you need. Is that something that's incorporated into your regimen?
So it's actually something kind of new. The CF Foundation finally realized that there's a link between CF and depression. Like,
Well, go figure.
Right?
You're just isolated. I mean, you know.
So they started employing psychologists on staff at our lung clinics.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I actually was seeing one for over 2 years, and she was amazing. And unfortunately, my insurance right now won't let me go to her. So I haven't seen her in a couple months, and I can definitely tell a difference.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine. Like that, I feel like is just as important. You know, we
Yes.
got to take care of our mental health as much as our physical health.
I didn't realize how
and-
bad I needed it.
Right. Well, and like when our physical health is not at it, you know, not well, then that definitely affects our mental health.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, for everyone. I love that they provide that and make that available. I mean, I feel like anything like that should have, like, we all need it. Mental health care, therapy for everyone.
Yes.
No matter what you're going through.
And I know some people whose lung clinics have not gotten on board with it yet, and I feel for them.
That's really shocking. It really is. Yeah. I feel like we should be supporting that in every way for, you know, like I said, for anyone and everyone. I see that you love jigsaw puzzles.
yes.
Corey and I do too.
I
We
have
do a
whole
puzzle
stack
swap.
over there.
Oh, no, I would love to.
You can
Let's
join
get
our
in
puzzle.
on the
You
puzzle
can
So
swap.
I
you can
always
join our
said I
puzzle
wish there
swap.
was like a Netflix for puzzles.
We-
Because I don't want
yes.
to keep buying them because I don't have any room.
Exactly.
But I want
Yeah.
a new one. I
All
want
right.
to do it and then send it back.
Yeah.
And get a
Yeah.
new one.
I'll take your number.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
I have so many.
Excellent.
Yep.
I have a couple to pass on. I might be able to give you one
I know.
today.
I have like 2 that I just got at Christmas. I'm like, I haven't even started them because we have one that we need to finish. I'm like, somebody else needs to help me finish this.
They're so meditative.
They are.
I used to have one here, and so whenever guests would come over, but we really don't have time to mess with it or whatever. And then it was just becoming like, I was like, oh God, it's messy, so like it's distracting me. But yeah, I'm glad more and more people, you know, I'm finding that enjoy puzzles, and you like to play video games.
I do.
What's your faves?
So I'm an RPG person. So like Final
Oh.
Fantasy, Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time. It was on the Super Nintendo. So, but I have it in PlayStation form now and DS form. And so I replay that a couple times every couple of years.
Does your husband play with you?
No.
That's all you.
He's not a gamer.
No way. Cool. So are you with, I'm not familiar with all these new consoles, but are you able to get online too with any of those?
So I actually,
Final
my husband
Fantasy?
just bought me a PS4 for Christmas. I haven't set it up yet because I'm in the middle of playing a game on my PS3 still. But that one I'll be able to get online and actually play with my brother and his kids in Florida.
That's so
Oh,
fun.
that's fun.
I could see you. Have you ever heard of Twitch?
No.
Oh, I'll email you Twitch. You can get paid and donations for sitting on camera and playing videos, and the girls make the most money. In my opinion. And
Wait a minute. So
yeah.
that you just watch, you're like YouTube, like, because my kids will watch a
It's
YouTube
live,
video
though.
of
Other
somebody.
people playing video games.
Yeah.
It's live. So Twitch is live. You got a camera going, right? And so what the viewer is seeing is a camera of you playing and then a camera of the actual screen, like of you going around.
Oh my God.
And like, of course, commentary and stuff like that. But people can donate just donate money because they enjoy watching you.
What?
And you can actually sign up and have
There
your
you
own
go.
channel.
That's your next career.
Oh my gosh. And if you're home all the time,
Right?
girl, why not? People actually make a job out of this. I'll send you more information.
That's
but why the fuck not?
crazy.
And I swear the women, I mean, these girls that are playing,
Wait, but they're not like playing in bikini tops or anything salacious, are they?
some of them are, but a lot of them aren't.
Okay.
But there's a lot of rules too. Like this isn't girl cam world or
Right.
anything like that. But there's these women, all different shapes, sizes, colors, whatever. But if you have good commentary and you know how to play the game, or even if you're fucking around with the game, people will sit and watch and they love it and they will give money. And
That
you
is
can actually
so
get
interesting.
subscribers that'll pay monthly to watch. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm going to send
so
you some
I've watched
information.
my nephew watch YouTube videos of people playing video games for hours, and I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I
know.
don't understand.
I know.
Well, I can't. I'm not a gamer. My kids talk to me about games, and I'm like, I just glaze over because I'm not. I think I've tried them, and I'm not very good at them. So then I just like whatever. I'm just it's out of my mind. Like whatever.
Well, and you're doing this vest treatment.
Yes.
So you could be like, nobody's doing that on there. I'm just throwing it out there. So can you tell us about your
Cora's
vest
gonna do your
treatment?
PR for your Twitch account.
I got ideas.
But then I have to do my best in front of
Yes.
people, which I've never really done.
But that might be thing. Maybe the CF group community will come and like you'll make millions of dollars off of CF and video games.
That would be I see this vision happening. It's pretty awesome.
So when you do the vest treatment,
Yep.
it's a vest.
Yeah, it's a big, giant, inflatable vest. And it has tubes coming out of it that plug into a machine. So you kind of look like a monster.
Yeah.
And then it just shakes for an hour.
So it's shaking the mucus loose.
Yeah.
And then what happens to the mucus?
Then I cough it out.
Okay.
Hopefully. I mean,
Okay.
that's the plan.
That's the goal.
It doesn't
Right.
really work that
Because
well for
it's
me.
too
but-
thick, and that's the whole problem.
So
Okay.
before the vest, which came out when I was 14, I think, your parents had to clap you.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you would lay down and they'd basically
For like an hour?
beat you. Yeah. So it would be the back and then the side and then the front and then the side again. And it's like 15 minutes on each side.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I mean, not
That's-
only is that unpleasant for the child, but like I'm thinking of my parents' hands
No,
after an
I
hour
would-
of.
well, and I wouldn't
like-
want to do that. I would feel guilty. Like I know I'm helping my kid, but at the same time, I would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I
You're
would
the
just be
sweet
going, "I'm sorry, I'm
baby."
sorry."
Yeah, my husband's had to clap me a couple times, like when I'm in the hospital and I can't wear the vest because
Yeah.
I'm so nauseous. So he claps me occasionally, but
What? I'm sorry. What was it like to be hospitalized as a child?
so actually, my first hospitalization for CF, I was 16.
Ah,
So
so way later on.
Yeah, I always
than I would
thought that
imagine.
was odd, and then I found out that apparently that's the norm for a lot of people that have the digestion in lungs. That it's the digestion that hits you the most as a kid. The failure to thrive. I was so tiny, I couldn't gain any weight, but my lungs didn't really bother me.
Was it because like I'm sorry to interrupt. But was it like malabsorption?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would eat, but nothing would be absorbed. Like no nutrient. You weren't getting the nutrients from it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just I was labeled failure to thrive at 9 months old, which is when they did it's a sweat test that they do to see if you have CF. And that's when they found out I had CF. And suddenly it made sense why I was such a tiny 9-month-old that
And hospitalization now, is that kind of just random?
I rarely get hospitalized now because of my husband, because they trust him to do all my stuff at
Wow.
home.
Oh my God.
But before him, it's long. It's 2 to 3 weeks in a hospital, and you're confined to your room. At least in Texas, I was. They didn't let you wander around because of other CFers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been hospitalized once in Colorado at St. Joe's, and they were amazing.
St. Joe's.
Such a fantastic hospital. They have an entire floor that's nothing but CF. And they encourage you to leave your room. Yeah, you have to wear your mask and everything, but they want you to leave. And so that was probably the best hospital stay I've ever had,
Do you
just
know-
because I could leave my room.
Are they a teaching hospital? Do you know?
I don't know, actually.
St. Joe's, though. I'll have to look that. Where is that?
Downtown Denver.
Oh, it's right downtown. Huh. Cool. I've never heard about St. Joe's.
Yeah, so National Jewish is actually the CF hospital, which is also in downtown Denver. But when you get admitted, you get sent to St.
Oh,
Joseph's.
that's cool. That's good to know. I like to know the good hospitals around. You love to hike,
I do.
and you go with your doggies?
Yes.
Oh, where do you guys like to hike?
Apex Park is a
Nice.
favorite because it's so close.
Yeah.
But we still haven't done all the trails.
Yeah.
After all this time, we go and we think, okay, we're gonna, do Enchanted Trail, and then we're finally gonna hit this one up here. And I always poop out, and we can't do it.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful thing after all this time to find a place where you can go and hike. Because I know how
Yes.
it feels so good to hike.
It does.
It's just wonderful.
I have to wear oxygen now, but it's the elevation mixed with physical activity.
Yeah.
So, but I never feel more alive than when I'm out there hiking and pushing my lungs. So,
Oh, it's so good.
I love that.
It's so
So
good.
you told us, I thought this was interesting. And so, you have experienced a loss in your life of your best friend.
yes.
And that was something that was unexpected to you, and especially being best friends. And you had mentioned that you thought, that that you guys had prepared in this relationship that you would go first, and then she did. And I love that you said, I have a lot of fun stories about my best friend.
Yeah.
Tell us a fun story about your best friend.
One of my favorite stories or memories of her is actually I was hospitalized when I was 17. It was summer between junior and senior year for 2 weeks. And she had her parents drop her off, and she lived in the hospital with me for the whole 2 weeks. It's like, not a lot of people would do that.
That's amazing.
And that was, we were in the children's hospital then, so they didn't make me stay in my room. So we just had the whole run of that hospital. We would do like 3 a.m. walks around the hospital, but just not a lot of people would live in a hospital sleeping on like this cot next to the window for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What was her name? How'd you meet her?
Rachel. We went to the same elementary school, and we didn't actually know each other. And Halloween night, 1993, she knocked on my door. I hadn't left yet. And I opened the door, and we looked at each other. And at the same time, we said, "Don't I know you?" And that was all it took. And we were best friends from that moment forward.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Go ahead, Lisa.
And so, I don't want to like bring our mood down, but I think it is important that we talk about this when we talk about mental health and things like that. And, we provide questions for people, and I don't think that you would put it on there if we weren't able to talk about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But she took her own life.
She did.
And you had no idea, like nothing was going on, huh? Like,
I knew things were going on in her life. I didn't expect it to be at the point where she thought she had no other option.
Yeah. And you got to speak at her funeral for her.
I did.
And what a gift that must have been for you. And I can't imagine the different emotions that you must have had going on. And what would you say, is that something that is important to you now to help people be aware of suicide and to be aware of mental health and those types of issues?
Yeah, it's definitely something now. I wish... I guess, I know I hear a lot of people think a lot of people have guilt when someone close to them passes or, commits suicide because they think, if I had just done this. And weirdly enough, on my end, I feel like there was nothing I could have done because I know based on the notes she left that she knew I loved her. And she knew I was never going to give up on her and that I would have never stopped loving her no matter what. And so I have a sense of peace that I know she went knowing that I loved her.
Yeah.
And there's other people in her life, I think, that, have the thought of, did she know I did? And it's almost comforting that I know for a fact that she knew I did.
Well, what a gift to have somebody that special, because I don't think everyone gets someone that's special in their life, or they don't find that special, whether it's a friend, a husband, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. And to have somebody that's special in your life, and that you got to have each other, for the time that you did.
25 years of we called each other sister.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I appreciate you being able to talk about that with us a little bit. And because I do think it is important and to talk about like that this happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You were a ballerina.
Yes.
For 9 years.
Yes.
How old were you?
5 to 14.
Oh my gosh. I loved ballet.
Oh, it was.
I was a ballerina too, but only for like 4 years.
I would probably credit it to the fact of why I had pretty good lungs when I was a kid.
Yeah. So what were your performances like?
I was in the Nutcracker for 5 years.
Yes.
It was amazing. I was a mouse, and then I was an angel for 3 years, and then I was a mouse again.
That's awesome.
And the last year I did it, they revamped the whole ballet.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of, a bunch of mice together, they had individual mice, and I was the gardener mouse, and I got to pull a piece of chicken across and bonk the Rat King in the head with it. It's pretty awesome.
That's so fun. And why did you quit?
So at 14, you basically have to make the decision. You're at that age where you go pro or you quit. There's no in between. There's classes Monday through Saturday. For, after school, it would have been hours all day Saturday, and that's your life from then on out. And at 14, I wasn't ready to commit to that kind of life.
Do you like to dance in general?
I'm actually a horrible dancer. I'm like good at ballet, classical music.
Yeah.
But I have no rhythm. with any other type of music. I'm horrible. I'm like Elaine from Seinfeld, like trying to dance so bad.
That's what my husband calls me about my dancing too. So I'm right there with you. We can go to the club and Elaine dance together.
I've related ballet a lot to yoga. Have you done or the bar classes? Have you done either of those?
I've done some yoga.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to breathe in some of those positions.
Oh, that makes
interesting.
sense.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I'll never forget when I started. Once you get into like a real vinyasa, flowy, those movements, I'm like, where is this coming from? I remember like, where is my hand? Like, I'm like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the ballerina in me. Like,
Yes.
I completely forgot, and so I just thought that was interesting. I was just curious.
Do you like to watch dance, like dance competitions on TV and things like that?
I've watched a couple of Dancing with the Stars, but only if it's a celebrity that I like. Well,
I've never watched. I don't watch those, but I used to love to watch So You Think You Can Dance.
Yes, I've seen that a couple times.
That show is good. Did you watch that show, Corey?
No.
Oh gosh, it was so good. Okay, I don't even know if it's on anymore, but
What other physical things have you done throughout your life?
It's mostly the ballet.
Yeah.
And then I started getting really sick when I was 16. And then from then on, that was kind of the end of all that. And so in a way, I'm kind of glad that I quit ballet on my own terms, because had I gone pro and had to quit 2 years later, that would have been heartbreaking.
Yeah.
is your are you and your brother close with each other? How is your life with your family?
Very close. I've got two older brothers.
Okay, two. I think.
Yes. One's still in Austin, and then one actually moved to Orlando last year. So, I'm the one that moved away first, but now they're even farther away from me. So my second oldest brother has the two kids, and my niece and nephew are my world. I love them so much.
And were your brothers always like supportive when you were sick of that, or did they ever act jealous of that? What was that like?
My oldest brother was always kind of like the one that like kind of took care of me, because my second oldest brother like was so mean to me when we were growing up, and and I like idolized him, and I wanted, and it's funny because
I just want to be loved.
Yes, and I must have annoyed him so much, and we had. It just was natural. The oldest brother bullied the middle one, and then the middle one bullied me. And then it just, it was kind of natural. But sometime around when I was hospitalized for the first time, I think at 16 is when he and I got really, really close. And he was like my emergency contact for everything. And every time I got PICC lines back then, he would hold my hand, and he was there for them. And like he's fantastic. Like, I mean, both of my brothers are fantastic. But
that's so sweet. Oh, I like it when I hear people have good relationships with their brothers and sisters, and like, I don't know. I didn't have that necessarily, so I like it when I hear people who do.
Yeah, well, to have such a supportive family, and gosh, you got a great network around you. It sounds like, and you're in good spirits yourself. You're very positive. I had a question that it keeps going in and out of my head. Oh, CF.
Yes.
It has weighed you down so much that you're unable to work.
Yes.
When was the last time you worked?
2013.
What were you doing?
When I was in HR for 10 years.
Wow.
And, really it came down to how frequently I was sick. Because the thing is when I'm not sick, I could work.
Yeah.
In theory.
Right.
But, I start getting sick. It weighs me down for a couple weeks before we like actually do something about it. And then I'm on IVs, and then I have to recover.
So it's hard getting an employer that's like,
yes.
Sure, you can
take off for a month at any period of time,
right.
and because it sometimes it comes on out of nowhere. I have been to lunch with someone, and by the next day I'm on IVs, and their response is always, "But you were fine yesterday."
Yeah, right.
I'm like, I'm never really fine.
Do seasons have anything to do with it?
In Austin, yes, because of allergies.
Mm-hmm. But you haven't had that experience in Colorado?
Not so much.
Oh, good.
So
good.
It's almost actually worse though, because it comes on so quickly here. Like I'll feel completely fine, and then I'll like cough up blood, and that's the end of that. And start IVs.
When you've applied to jobs in the past, did you disclose immediately that you had CF?
No.
So what does that look like when you apply? You'll apply to a job, or you have applied to a job, and then you get sick, And then does it come out? What is that?
Yeah. So it's always kind of this tricky thing.
Yeah.
My first job, I waited tables at Applebee's for 3 years or so. And it came out because other people that worked there went to high school with me. And so they knew. So they are the ones that told.
Oh.
But when you wait tables, I mean, it's not as big of a deal if I have to be out for a month.
Yeah.
No one's, relying on me.
Yeah.
It was when I got into the office work that suddenly, it mattered if I was there or not. I did my best to keep it a secret until I had a run of about almost 2 years where I didn't have any tune-ups.
Wow.
So I was able to hide it for a while. And so I was able to prove myself in that time.
Wow.
And so when I did finally have to tell my boss, she was so supportive and amazing. I worked from home in the hospital. Most people in the office didn't even know I was gone. And she knew that I was going to get things done even if I was not physically there. But that took me 2 years of proving myself. And it got to the point when I left that job, I left that job for other reasons and was going to start temping. And it got to the point where I was sick so frequently in Austin that by the time I interviewed and started, I probably would have been sick already. And I just didn't have time to prove myself anymore. I spent the last 2 years in Austin. The longest I went without being on IVs or oral meds or steroids was 3 weeks. And I had to plan, around like weddings and think, okay, if I knew someone was getting married, I would have a tune-up right before their wedding and then have their wedding. And then about a week after that, have another one. But like I timed it so I didn't miss things. But I couldn't time that for work.
Yeah, damn. And it's illegal for employers to even ask if there's any health
right,
or anything like that. So, I mean, that's pretty commendable to show up and just do it, and to be so lucky to have 2 years, and you had that experience.
Yeah.
So are you able to go on disability?
Yes.
Yeah, that's thank God, right?
Yes.
I learned all about that. Travis and I, he's my fiance, and what another great support thing. I didn't even know that existed. God forbid anything was ever to happen to one of us, but we'll be getting married. And so we had taken a Dave Ramsey course and introduced into the world of, life insurance and signing up for disability and, just the possible additional help. So, I mean, that's really nice to have.
And I wasn't planning on it when we realized I wasn't even going to be able to really temp with any sort of, frequency. My sister-in-law suggested it to me.
Yeah.
And, it's
why not?
It's kind of tough sometimes though, because I feel like there's such a stigma about people who are on disability, like you're living off the government.
Right.
And because you can't look at me until I'm sick.
Yeah.
I've definitely, I'm not super open. Anytime I meet someone new, the first thing they say is, "What do you do?"
Yep.
And I have decided I want to try to change that. I want to try to, instead of asking, because it's like this common icebreaker.
It's
something.
horrible, and I don't know what it tells. Like if I still worked HR and I told you, "Oh, I'm in HR," what does that tell you about me?
Right.
Like that didn't.
Right. And so, like, shouldn't we ask each other? Oh, what do you like to do?
What are your hobbies?
What brings you joy in life? Like, what do you like to do? I don't know. Yeah, because it's like we've created this culture in life that we're defined by what we do, and somehow that makes us who we are.
And it's so awkward because I'm not going to tell a person I just met, like, "Oh, well, you see, I'm on disability." Because
yeah.
So I used to just kind of go there for a while, but I started saying I'm a housewife now, just because I find it really funny.
Yeah.
Because their reaction is always like, "Oh,
see that too." I remember I became a housewife after working 40-hour plus work week and going to college and like working my ass off, and then became a housewife for a while. And I was so embarrassed.
Yep.
I was so embarrassed. I'm like, why am I embarrassed about this? But I was.
Yeah, these stigmas. I'm glad that you said that. About this, about the housewife thing and being on disability. What the fuck? I do not want to be sick and have to go to hospital. Like, of course, please. This is what my taxes. Of course, I want to help people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, you didn't sign up for this.
These stigmas, they do need to be broken. They do, because it's just not right, and it's a waste of space in people's minds. And it's a blessing that we still have you here. I mean, even talking about your friend.
Yeah.
Like, what a crazy, ironic story that is, right? What are the effing chances? Sorry, I'm passionate. I start saying effing and fuck. But, like, these are things that it's just to break down these walls and, like, to just we're humans.
Yep.
Yes, maybe I have a disease, and I don't talk about it, and to connect with somebody else that has something that's different compared to what I have, we're still human beings and we're just doing our best. And we're all here. I've heard so many times that being a housewife is stressful and that it's too, I had know nothing about it. But over and over again. And that yet, different responsibilities and managing stuff. Do you have any kids? No. And I don't either. But I've heard managing, stay-at-home moms, same thing. You are managing things. It's
and that was
stressful.
the thing. It was a stay-at-home mom, which, it's like, you're
People
doing
don't know. We
whatever.
don't know till you know. And to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, just if we all took the time to think about that, the world could really change. This little Gandhi, like Buddha stuff,
Yeah.
It's just it's really amazing. And then that's the kind of idea of this whole why we want to get together and meet other women. And I was just thinking our pre-interview questions, it does say what do you do, but I think we should push that down to the bottom and start with, what is something the world wants you to know, you want the world to know about you, or something like that, because again, it's such a secretive disease, the CF.
I could tell way more interesting stories about CF than I could have told about being in HR. So
right. And it's interesting. I'm like enthralled and like, oh yeah, tell me
Let me
more.
tell you about benefit selection on HR.
Yeah. I didn't even
Open
know.
enrollment.
I didn't know what
Well,
it
it's
was.
so super
I had no idea.
interesting. It's super interesting because we don't. Like I said, like my extent of knowledge is Grey's Anatomy and movies on some of these things.
Well, that Grey's Anatomy episode, I remember when it aired, my sister-in-law, who had already been in our family for a couple of years, texted me and said, wait, can you really not be in the same room as another CFer? She learned it from Grey's Anatomy. But that's my fault because I didn't talk about it.
Right. Well, and I mean, hey, Grey's Anatomy is not all bad.
Last night in bed, literally,
Teach
something
yourself.
popped up in my feed of Doctor critiques Grey's Anatomy. And it's like this Dr. George. He looks like McDreamy, by the way. And I watched for like 20 minutes of like, he's like, yes, that's real. That actually happens. That's pretty accurate. No, that is completely not accurate.
Right,
It was
right.
just random.
It is not fun watching any shows where ambulances come with my husband because he's like, that's not the protocol we would use.
I want to meet your husband. He sounds like an angel.
He is.
Oh my
pretty
God,
amazing.
you got so lucky.
He drove me, so he'll come. The new Trikafta med, I get dizzy spells on it, and so I'm trying not to drive long distances until I get used to it.
Smart,
because I get double vision dizziness. So he drove me. So
I have a question, like before we start wrapping up here, is there current, well, obviously there is because you're on a new drug, but is there still current research being done, and how can people find out about this new research and or donate to help this new research?
So something I'm actually kind of passionate about is making sure that people know that this new drug is only for 90% of CFers. And I know that's a huge number. I mean, it was more than we were expecting. I wasn't expecting to be eligible for it. When it came out in October and they announced that my mutations were eligible, I was completely shocked. But there's 10% of the population that isn't eligible. And they're watching our posts on Facebook and happy for us and probably also kind of pissed because they're not eligible. And the headlines say things like, we're curing CF with this drug and, CF's battle is done. Like, it's not a cure. And there's still 10,000 people because there's about 100,000 people with CF worldwide. So about 90,000 were eligible for this drug.
That's rare, right? I mean, that's a rare in the whole world. That's not the U.S.?
It might just be the U.S.
Okay.
It might
I'm
be
like
the
100,000 in the whole world. Like that's a... Yeah, that's a
because that was I read those numbers when Trikafta came out.
We'll have to. We can fact check that. Yeah, we can update it on our website.
I think it was saying 90,000 were eligible and 10,000 weren't.
Okay.
So the 10% that weren't, but it.
Well, the goal is to have no one left behind, right?
And so there is still research being done for that 10% and their genetic mutations. So Cystic Fibrosis Foundation is actually the organization that people can donate to. And they have fundraisers throughout the year. They've got like a walkathon one called Great Strides. It's different dates for every state. And they have like a shop, because my grandmother's bought me some blankets and things that say CF on them that you can buy, and all the proceeds go to CF. And
awesome. We'll put those links on the website for your page. And hopefully and I'm sure on those websites, people can just get more educated about what CF is and what it means.
yes.
Because I would love to know, just out of humanness of like, I would love to know more about what other people's got going on, and like what am I missing? What am I blind to?
And it is so unknown. And so it has been like my whole life. When I do finally tell people, they say, what? You have what? And I, as much as I had some issues with the movie 5 Feet Apart, at least it got it out mainstream. Because I know people now who are like, oh, CF, like the 5 Feet Apart movie. And I'm like, you know what? If that's how you know about it, like, that's still great. Because at least it's getting out there.
Yeah. Right. Well, thank you so much for coming and educating us, and
thank you for
our
having
listeners.
me.
I learned a lot, and I'm very grateful that you're still here with us and that you're able to share this story with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. If you have an interesting story, something funny, something sad, something you want the world to know, please email us. We want you to share your experiences with us. We'll take these, we'll collect them, we'll do some episodes sometimes where we'll read them. So if you want to be anonymous, please just let us know. We won't read your name. If you want your name read, then we will. But send us those stories, comments, to info@herturntotalkpodcast.com. And we also ask, if you like what you're hearing, please rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you.